Okay, morning everyone, and welcome to our webinar on apprenticeships. We're joined by four brilliant speakers this morning. So we have Chloe and Ria from Morningside Pharmaceuticals, Bethany from Mattioli Woods, and Matty from Samworth Brothers. So a really good range of people who have been through apprenticeships themselves and can talk about apprenticeship routes and their experiences of being on the programme, and lots of opportunities for you to ask questions of our speakers as well. So if you have any questions, please do type them in the question box below. It's just at the bottom of your screen. If you hover over the bottom of the screen, then that button will pop up. So please do feel free to ask questions as we go along, and we'll ask those of the speakers at the end. But without further ado, I will hand it over to Ria, who's our first speaker from Morningside Pharmaceuticals.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So my name's Ria Wicks. I work at Morningside Pharmaceuticals, which is a pharmaceutical company. We're based in Loughborough, Leicestershire. So a bit about our company. So we manufacture and export pharmaceutical products. We work all over the UK. So obviously, you know, you might use our products yourself. We export, like I say, also internationally as well. So, you know, we work with aid agencies. So you may have heard of agencies like UNICEF or Red Cross. So we make sure, obviously, like I say, our products are all over the UK. A bit about our founder and chairman, Dr. Nick Katecha, who I actually work with myself now. So his original vision for the company was to make quality healthcare affordable. So a little bit about where I started. So I previously, actually, before I joined Morningside, I was doing something very different. I was performing, so working all over the UK, different performing contracts, mainly singing, but a bit of a mix. And with that, I was registered as self-employed. So you'll find if you do go into performing, quite frequent that you are self-employed, which is completely different route. But yes, so a couple of years in, after deciding, you know, getting some experience traveling, I kind of felt a bit like probably I wanted a little bit of a change, a bit of stability, a bit of a different route and a bit of a new challenge. So I decided that I'd actually quite like to, after, you know, having a few different jobs as well and getting a little bit of experience elsewhere, decided that I kind of wanted to go into sort of the business route. So I decided to, after going to a couple of interviews, learning a bit about what I might like to do, researching, applying for jobs, all those kind of things. I actually felt that maybe the best route for me was to start fresh and decide to go for an apprenticeship. So after looking around at different apprenticeships that were available, I obviously saw one of the ones that I decided to go for was the apprenticeship at Morningside Pharmaceuticals for a business administration apprentice. Through that, I also obviously had sort of telephone interviews and things like that with Loughborough College, who myself and Chloe did the apprenticeship with. So I'll speak a little bit about what we had to do sort of through Loughborough College in a little bit. But yeah, so I applied for the apprenticeship at Morningside, and after obviously attending for an interview and sort of getting to know the company a little bit, I was offered the position, which was great. So when you go for an apprenticeship, you have to pick what units you would like to do. So which sort of areas that relate to the specific job that you're going to be doing at the company, and sort of what units are relevant to you, where you see yourself going, which ones are going to be the best ones for you to choose that, like I say, to take the skills forward. So I was actually based, when I initially started, I was based on working on reception for some of the time, and then also worked for the administration department. So I was doing things like procurement, you know, doing all of the purchasing for the company, making sure the company everyone in the company had what they needed, whether that was stationery, whether that was all of the, the catering items, and lots of different things, but doing lots of the ordering for the company. I also was working sort of with the maintenance contract. So, when you're working sort of the facilities department, you do things like making sure that everything's working and there's not any issues, things breaking, all of those kind of things, which you don't really think about, but actually those kind of things are important too. So I was doing a lot of work like that. And then I also was asked to work within a team to arrange the Christmas party for that year when I joined. And that was kind of my route in, really, to sort of understand a bit more about where I wanted to go. So, because I found that working in that team, I actually really enjoyed sort of event organisation, and it suited me. And then sort of the following year, continuing on with the role, a position became available within the company for the executive assistant, which is obviously working with the chairman of the company. I had got to know him a little bit through my work with the Christmas party team in arranging that event. So I just decided to apply for it, even though I was still within the apprenticeship, that sort of challenge. And obviously, if I was to get the role, then we would work that out with my tutor and the person I worked with through Loughborough College for the apprenticeship. As like I say, some of the units that I was doing were kind of relevant to that work anyway, so that wasn't such an issue. But yeah, I decided to apply. I wasn't really sure if I'd be successful, because obviously, coming from an apprentice, you're not really sure how it's going to go. But I went for it anyway, just for the experience, really. The internal interview process was going to be a good experience for me. And I knew that it was the kind of position that I wanted to aim for going forward anyway. So I kind of wanted to show interest within the company more than anything else. So I went through the interview process, which was great, and I was actually successful in getting the role, which was obviously fantastic news. So yeah, obviously we let, like I say, our sort of mentor and the person we worked with at Loughborough College, sort of who did sort of regular checks with us, came into the office for meetings and things, progress checks, those kind of usual things you'd expect, making sure I'm keeping up with the work that we had to do, sort of the written work, and we had a portal online which we used to sort of submit work and things like that. So keeping up with all of that and kind of the written side of it, and explained everything to her and continued on and sort of got into this position. So yeah, that was obviously really exciting. So yeah, a bit more about kind of what I do now. So obviously, yeah, now I work with the chairman of the company. So it's quite a varied role, as you would expect. It's sort of, obviously, if you're not sure kind of what an executive assistant is, essentially it's sort of a similar line of work as what you would do as a PA, a personal assistant. So like I say, reporting to him, it's a really varied role. I obviously do all of the support in terms of sponsorships and all the things that the CSR that we do at Morningside, supporting him just in sort of what you'd expect in terms of like diary management and all of those kind of things. So yeah, really enjoying my role, and it's been a really great experience at Morningside. I was very lucky in the opportunity I was given, but also, with that, because I did come from an apprentice, it's been an interesting route, and I've had to sort of work quite hard to get to the level I wanted to be at and where I should be at. So yeah, it's been fantastic, really. I suppose the other thing I'd probably say for anybody that's watching this that is not sure how they'd like to go forward, or still not sure about your career choice, maybe, if you do go down one route, don't worry if you suddenly decide, actually, oh, I'm not sure if this is for me. Maybe you're thinking about going to university, which of course, lots of people do go to university, and it's great to gain a qualification, going through the academic route. for me, I didn't take that route. I didn't go to university. I obviously, like I say, I left, I did my GCSEs and A-levels, and then went on to registering as self-employed and becoming a performer and sort of traveling around, which was, like I say, great life experience, and I really enjoyed that. But then at the same time, I decided actually long term it probably wasn't what I wanted to do, and I realized that sort of 3 years in. So like I say, I started afresh. I applied for the apprenticeship after sort of thinking about what I wanted to do, and it's been nothing but a great experience for me. And I've gained many skills that have been invaluable. So yeah, a brilliant experience. And I think really just probably any advice that I could give was just be determined, have confidence in yourself. You may go for an apprenticeship and then think, oh, I'm never going to be able to go into a position I want to. I've not got the experience for that. It doesn't, that's not always, don't doubt yourself. That's not always the case. Yeah, that's probably it from me.
Wonderful, thank you, Ria. That's fabulous. A really, really good advice and a really brilliant experience there. So that's great. I'm going to hand over to Chloe now, who also works for Morningside Pharmaceuticals, so she can share a bit of her experience on a different sort of apprenticeship.
Yep. So my name's Chloe. I'm 24 years of age. I've worked at Morningside for just over 2.5 years now. So the sector that I work in at Morningside, you may or may not have heard of it, but it's called Human Resources, also known as HR. So in Human Resources, we, in a nutshell, look after all of the employees within Morningside. We do the recruitment, payroll, employee matters, a lot of confidential things as well. So yeah, how I got into that, I never went to uni after college. It was never something that I really thought was going to be for me, but I ended up sort of, hopping from job to job, really couldn't find my feet anywhere. I never ended up in anywhere that I thought, I could see this long term. So then I thought, I would look into an apprenticeship. I was maybe about 21 at this point, and I was thinking, oh, am I too old for an apprenticeship? But no. It was the best decision I ever made. I went and looked on things like Indeed and came across an apprenticeship in HR, and I thought that would suit me down to a T because, I like working with people. I'm good at working with people, and I thought, I'll be able to earn whilst I actually learn on the job as well. So I thought, perfect. So, I filled out the application form, got a phone call through from the college that I'd be doing the apprenticeship through, had a telephone interview with them, was successful at that stage. They then passed me on to Morningside, and I had an interview process with them as well, and luckily got the job. So yeah, it was all pretty exciting. I thought this can be, fresh start, learn from the bottom, but work my way up. So yeah, I completed my apprenticeship after around 12 months, was then kept on permanently, which was great. And then, yeah, worked my way up from an apprentice to an administrator, and then recently was promoted to assistant level. So I'm looking at doing my level 3 CIPD in HR, which is an external course, which will obviously improve my knowledge and my theory. So yeah, that's pretty much my story.
Wonderful, thanks, Chloe. So a kind of different subject area for Chloe, but still a really positive experience. So that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. I'm going to hand over to Bethany now, who works for Mattioli Woods, and she's got some slides to share with us as well, which is exciting.
Yeah, hi guys, sorry, I'll just get the PowerPoint up. Lovely, hi, so my name's Bethany. I work for Mattioli Woods. We're a wealth management and pensions firm. You might have heard of us. We've got a main office in Leicester, but we have 10 offices across the UK. So I work as what's known as a CRM, but the core things sort of that our business does, we're like an end-to-end service. So we provide advice and administration, as well as sort of planning, all around really pensions and personal wealth. So a bit about sort of how we operate. I operate as something called a client relationship manager. So we're sort of like a first point of contact for any client really, and we're building a constant relationship between an advisor and then sort of the background to that work. So the best way for me to describe a sort of CRM is to make it happen. So if a consultant sort of advises a certain thing, we'll make that happen in the background and liaise. So day-to-day role is very varied. I do a lot of banking, contributions, investment, a lot of property transactions. It's very varied. And of course, pension payments and benefit payments. And so a little bit about my apprenticeship journey. I actually started as an apprentice in 2018. There's me on the right hand side there. I'd done my GCSEs and A-levels at Ashby School, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, if I was honest. I did some work experience during the summer holidays between finishing A-levels and starting actually the job with Mattioli Woods, but by chance really I'd emailed out to a lot of different companies in Leicester just to get some experience, and I happened to really enjoy my work experience with Mattioli Woods, so I decided to apply. They do different types of apprenticeships which I'll go on to later, but I applied for the degree apprenticeship. So I'm currently in my 3rd year of university, and we do a degree with DMU. And I'm also working towards my dissertation with that. So as I said earlier, I'm doing a sort of business management degree with De Montfort University, and we also get another accreditation, which is a CMI Institute certificate. So some of the benefits that I think there are to this sort of way of learning is sort of you've got a job, so you're earning whilst you're learning. The degree actually is funded by my company, so I don't have any student debt. And I just say that you build a lot of experience and knowledge, both in the degree and the job, and they really do complement each other alongside. So there are other apprenticeships that I just wanted to touch on that Mattioli Woods offer, and we do sort of a level 3 college business administration course. And we also sort of offer stuff within marketing, finance, accounting, IT, which is a big one at the moment. We're doing a lot of development. And then the business administration is the one that that I'm on. So four things that my apprenticeship has given me so far. I would say opportunities. So I'm just taking everything that I can get. It's really great to be sort of learning for these qualifications and being supported by my employers. I'd say confidence and job satisfaction, as well as I'm constantly developing myself and what I'm doing, over these 3 years. So these are some of the career opportunities that Mattioli Woods offer. So what I'm trying to say is that the apprenticeship is really just a stepping stone, and you can go into whatever you'd like to do. So it's like others have said, it's not the end of the world if you're not there straight away. You can branch into other things. So these were just some top tips from myself and what I think makes a good apprentice. So I just think being open to learn, being organised, actually wanting to be there, and enjoying sort of what you do. So for me, it would be great outcomes for clients. Some of my top apprenticeship tips. Work experience is a really good way of getting your foot in the door. So even if you just email lots of different companies to try and get some work experience, you might understand what you're interested in, because I know when I finished my A-levels I had no clue, and so it's not the end of the world, but it's something that you can develop, and you can also develop those sort of transferable skills, communication, organisation whilst on your work experience. And one last thing would be just to make sure you research in the companies that you're actually going to go for as well. Yeah, that was everything really. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take any, and I'll also put my email in the top left in case anyone wants to get in touch. That's great.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bethany. That's brilliant. Yeah, so quite a different apprenticeship experience for Bethany, doing a degree apprenticeship. So we can talk a little bit more about the difference between different levels of apprenticeship in the Q&A bit. But I want to hand over to Matty finally. He's our final speaker for today and is also doing a degree apprenticeship in a very different kind of company.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. And yeah, I'm Matty. And as Charlotte said, I'm also doing a degree apprenticeship with a business called Samworth Brothers, who are a food manufacturing group that are based across the UK, but primarily in Leicestershire. A few of you might know who we are already. Our lorries are everywhere on the roads in Leicester, so I imagine if you look out for them, you'll see them. But to explain a bit about what we do, we own quite a few brands that are quite well known food products such as Saurine and Ginster's Cornish pasties. But the bulk of our business is making food products for supermarkets. So stuff like Tesco sandwiches, Tesco ready meals, Marks and Spencer's ready meals we do. We operate across a few different categories of products as well. So we've got food to go, which is essentially £3 meal deal items, so stuff like sandwiches, wraps, pasta pots, salads and whatnot. We also do ready meals, sort of like British classic ready meals. We've also just opened a vegan factory to sort of make plant-based meat alternatives from. As well as that, we operate a meat category, so they do sort of pâtés, hams and sausages, and that's where I'm currently based at the moment. And then finally we have savoury pastry, so that's stuff like pasties. We make 95% of the UK's melt and Mowbray pork pies in a factory in Beaumont Leys. So the group offer the scheme that I'm on as an entire group, and we basically operate on a placement structure. So we do 3 years of the scheme, and for each year we spend a year at a different site. And I'll go into a bit more about that in a second, but first I just wanted to sort of explain the apprenticeship side of it. So my apprenticeship is operated out of Sheffield Hallam University, and it's in food technology. So the scheme itself is actually basically built around, it's not your typical full-time student course in like food and nutrition or food science. It's based around bringing you up to the standard to be a professional within the food industry. So it's actually titled Food Technical Professional Apprenticeship is what it is. And it basically entails food safety and quality management. So my main job role in the scheme is built around making sure that the products that my business make come out of the door and are not harmful to any consumers, and are of a quality that we've agreed with the customer that we're making the product for. So to talk a bit about how I got onto the apprenticeship, I've taken an interest in food since a really young age, sort of like cooking for my family from the age of 7, 8, and I always wanted to be a chef when I was a kid. And sort of was completely set on that idea and did food tech at school and loved it, loved the sort of sciencey side of stuff at school as well. Went on to do food tech at A-level and got a job as a chef in a kitchen part-time while I was doing my A-levels, and worked there for a few years, and it was great. And I learned a lot. It was an experience that I don't regret at all, but it was just something that I couldn't see myself working with the rest of my life. Sort of the main reason for that was the unsociable hours that come with it. So you're working evening shifts most of the time. It was almost, the way I looked at it, was almost that you were working when everyone else was not working. So you're working in the evenings and the weekends when most people were working 9 to 5 in the week. So I thought, what can I do that is going to be that caters my requirements, but is still involved with food? And that my A-level food teacher had worked in the manufacturing industry previously, and advised me of working in a food factory in the department that I now work for. So I applied for a food technology degree as a full-time student at Sheffield Hallam, and through that application found out about a course that was being written at the time that I was applying, that was being launched in the September that I would have been starting my full-time degree in. And went to a careers fair and spoke to the course leaders in person, had a chat with them, and they advised me that my company, Samworth Brothers, were looking at taking some apprentices on, and gave me a contact to speak to there before the applications had even come out. And I obviously ended up applying. The interview process was quite rigorous. We had quite a high number of candidates, so it's sort of like 3 separate stages of interview for 3 job roles. And then ended up getting it, which was just amazing because I didn't expect to whatsoever. until I found out that I had. And then from there, I started working. My first year placement was in a group function, so we looked after all of our supplier monitoring and assurance, and did stuff like went out and did supplier inspections to make sure that their factories are to the standard that we require them to be at, and they were capable of supplying us with a product again that is of a safe and good quality. And then second year, I moved into a business up in Melton Mowbray called Melton Foods, who produce sandwiches, wraps, salads and toasties for companies like Costa, Starbucks, Waitrose. And now I've moved to a business called Walker's Deli and Sausage, who are based in the Cotton Street Industrial Estate in Leicester Centre. And they make sausages, pate and ham. And sort of the actual jobs that I've been doing in the sites are different as well. So I've been in a role that's a quality auditor, so that's actually being on the factory floor, making sure that we're working to the right standards on the shop floor. As well as that, I've worked in a process development role, which is taking new products from that have been created by our product development teams as a recipe and scaling them up into 2,000, 3,000 unit runs in a factory, and sort of helping introduce them into the factory in the right way and making sure that we can achieve the same product coming out of a factory setting as a kitchen setting. And then the way my scheme operates from a university perspective is that I go every couple of months for maybe 3 or 4 days in a week, and then I do all my assignments out of work. So all my assignments are tailored to sort of reviews of my business's practices, and I can actually give advice to my business based on the findings from my assignments, and they're sort of quite open. There's an open relationship between my university and the assignments that I do and my workplace, which is really useful because it means that a lot of the learning that I'm doing is out of work rather than out of university. So they say that it should be like 80% of the learning you do is work-based rather than university-based. And I think that's a key message to send out about apprenticeships altogether, really, is that you are learning through your work much more than you are from a theoretical perspective from your education provider. And of course, that's still a really essential part of it. But I found that I've learned so much more from the experiences that I've had in work rather than stuff at university. And then, so Bethany went over some of the benefits that we've got as degree apprentices. Obviously, the main one that everyone jumps to is the fact that we don't have to pay tuition fees. So I could be saving upwards of £40,000 to £50,000 across the whole placement from doing that, and then you earn a salary on top of that as well. But another key piece of experience for me really is that I'm leaving my apprenticeship sort of at the same level as full-time students would be leaving their degree. So I'm 21 years old, and a lot of my friends are doing their final year of university like me at the moment. But I've got 3 years of industry experience already as well, which is absolutely fantastic in terms of employability. I'm also guaranteed a role with my group after the scheme. But if I wanted to look elsewhere, my chances would be fairly high in comparison to a standard full-time student. So just a piece of advice really from my perspective, from the journey that I've had, is if you're looking at apprenticeships, just go for it. Absolutely go for it. It's the best thing I've ever done, and I don't regret any of it whatsoever. And I just look back at the time that I was applying and think that there was probably a very high chance that I could have gone and done a full-time degree. And I'm sure I probably would be in a fairly similar position to the position I'm in now if I'd have done that. But I'm at an advantage to that because of my apprenticeship, and that's really great. So just go for it. Research the company that you're working with. Speak to the education provider of the course as well. If you can't find any companies that are actually offering the apprenticeships, they'll be able to direct you to businesses that are maybe not even signed up to the apprenticeship, but just interested in it, like they did with me, and that'll really help you. So yeah, that's me. I hope you're taking something from that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Matty. That was a really, really good overview or actually really detailed overview of kind of what you're up to in your apprenticeship and how you got into that. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So we've had a few questions. I think I might throw these out to the whole kind of set of speakers that we've got today, because I think some of them might vary depending on what level you were at. So Ria and Chloe, I don't know what level were your apprenticeships at?
Level 2.
Was yours the same, Chloe? Great. Okay, so one of our questions is how academic you have to be to do an apprenticeship. I think, you know, traditionally apprenticeships have been seen as more of a vocational route for people who don't like school or, you know, writing essays and things like that. Would you say that's still the case, or what would your reflections on that be? Go on, Chloe.
Yeah. So I'm just going off my own personal experience and what I prefer, I suppose. But at school, I pretty much just scraped the barrel. I came out with GCSEs at like C's. I got like 1 or 2 B's, but they were like, you know, like drama, things like that. But yeah, the reason why I didn't then go to uni is because I just didn't think I had it in me. So I think the benefit you get from doing an apprenticeship is, yes, you do have to, you know, do assignments and you have to do exams during an apprenticeship, but because you are working, you know, I do 37.5 hours a week. You are constantly surrounded by what you're learning about, and you are physically doing it as well. So it helps so much to actually be exposed to the sector that you're learning about. So you do have that hands-on experience rather than just reading and, you know, learning the theory behind it. You are literally doing it day in and day out. So yeah, whilst you do obviously have to be at some degree academic, it's not the be all and end all. You can get into it and get the swing of it quite easily without at the same time.
Great, and lots of nodding going on amongst that. Has anyone got anything else they want to add to that point?
I'll add a little bit. Yeah, so sort of similar with me. You know, I did do my GCSEs and A levels, but at the same time, I always knew I was kind of a kinesthetic learner. I was sort of a doer. I mean, obviously, my kind of initial thoughts was that I always wanted to go into performing, like I say, and sort of take that route really of sort of doing it for myself. Like I say, I did register as self-employed and go off and do that. So never really considered myself as an academic, though obviously, of course, when you are doing GCSEs and A levels, there is lots of written work, and you know, you do obviously learn a lot in theory as well. But at the same time, like I say, I always knew that I kind of was more on the job kind of person, sort of a people person, a bit like what Chloe said earlier as well. So yeah, and I think, you know, going into the apprenticeship, like Chloe said, although there is obviously, of course, written work, and you know, you have to meet deadlines, so there's all of those kind of things you would expect, but it certainly isn't about sort of just all about the academic side. I think what's great is that, you know, not only obviously are you learning about what you're doing whilst you're at, you know, in the position, it's also good because actually I think you learn skills that you don't even consider, you know, life experience, you know, being in a business and being around other people that you look up to, people that have worked for sort of many years, you're gaining skills and experience and learning off them when you're not even realizing you are. I think that's something that I've found very beneficial, is that, you know, going through the interview process, obviously for the apprentice, but then also the internal interview for going into the position I'm in now. Like I say, I've learned things that actually are sort of invaluable and probably wouldn't have learned had I not have done this.
Fantastic, thanks, Ria.
Yeah, I'll just add to that as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to add something, Matty. Yeah,
so I was just going to.
Everyone can go.
I was just going to make a point of, in terms of being academic, like, a lot of apprentices are very much kinesthetic learners and prefer learning through doing than actually the theoretical side of things. So, and I think an apprenticeship is certainly the route to go down if you're that way. But if you feel that you're very academic, I still would not be part of apprenticeships whatsoever. But I just want to emphasise the support that you get for your academia as well through the apprenticeship. So your learning provider, be it a college or a university, will give you complete thorough support with helping you to be at the academic standard that you need to be at to be successful within your course. And as well as the learning provider doing that, I found that the employer has been great at that as well. So there's quite a lot of people. You've got to remember that you'll be working with people that have already been through the process that you've been through. A lot of them through the actual academic, the fully academic side of that. So through university, through college and whatnot. So they can offer you quite a lot of support to help you. So I do stuff quite a lot where I'm like doing an assignment for university or whatever. and somebody in my office will be able to review that assignment and give me some advice on it. After all, they're the professionals around that subject. So I would not be concerned about if you don't feel like you're very academic coming onto an apprenticeship. I think it's probably the right route to go down, if anything.
Fantastic, thanks, Matty. Beth, have you got anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just on from that, I agree with everything Matty just said, and you've got to remember that they're there to help you. So, you know, these providers and your employer, that they're going to support you in every way possible. You know, if you're struggling with the academic side, you know, though it's not that, I don't think it's that academic. I think it's more about learning, sort of putting things into place that you're learning rather than the actual essays and stuff like that. But they will support you in every way possible. So you'll never be alone in that.
Fantastic, great. Chloe, did you have something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just had a little thought as to something that I was thinking about before I did my apprenticeship. I was kind of thinking, you know, could it be quite overwhelming having to meet deadlines, complete all of these assignments, revise for exams? Could that be quite overwhelming, doing all of that alongside pretty much a full-time job? But I think one thing that I would say is, and also reassure anyone considering it, is that it's completely manageable. You know, whether you take time out of your working day to complete something, you know, your employers expect that you are going to have to sort of balance it out, and you can only do so much within a certain amount of hours. So, you know, if anyone's ever concerned about that side of things, it's definitely something to, you know, be reassured about, and know that it's like Bethany and Matty said, they help you and they support you, and, you know, with that side of thing as well.
Fantastic.
Just to add it with, I don't know how it works with college apprenticeships, but I'm pretty sure that Beth will have experienced this as well. For degree apprenticeships specifically, there's a bit of stuff around the university not being able to get funding for the scheme without your employer signing a contract to give you 20% of your time towards your apprenticeship scheme. So you have to get 1 day of a 5-day working week to be able to do your apprenticeship, where be it an assignment or going and getting some extra experience, and you have to provide evidence of that across the scheme. So basically your employers are obliged to give you the support to prevent it from being overwhelming.
Fantastic, great. So yeah, really worth highlighting. Lots of support from your training provider, whether that's a college or a university, and lots of support from your employers as well, because they're investing in you. They want you to succeed in this program. So brilliant stuff, great. Another question, and this is a really good one. So I think traditionally a lot of parents think that the good route after school is doing your A-levels, going to uni and getting a degree. And obviously there's been a really big push on apprenticeships recently, but some parents might still think that that's, you know, that it's better to go to uni than do an apprenticeship. So have you got any advice for a young person who might be interested in doing an apprenticeship but be a bit nervous about talking to their parents about it, or what could they say to their parents to help them see the benefits of an apprenticeship?
So I'd just like to say that I actually had this experience at the start. My parents were a bit apprehensive about me taking on, albeit an apprenticeship at the start. I basically did a pros and cons list and tried to show them that there was more positives and negatives for taking something. I mean, at first I actually applied for a normal apprenticeship. I ended up getting the degree apprenticeship through Mattioli Woods. So there's nothing wrong with going through a different route. To be honest, I've been pushed more recently than the academic route anyway, because you're doing uni, you don't really get a lot of, there's lots of skills that you get in an apprenticeship that I'd say are a little bit more beneficial than potentially uni, but you know, that's for you to weigh up. But I do think there are pros and cons, and you could definitely get that across to your parents.
Fantastic, thanks, Beth.
I think just to add in, I think as well, you know, you are being paid to at the same time as learning, you know, so actually that is a massive pro for initially, to, you know, sort of make clear. Also, like I say, you know, what sometimes people don't consider is the life skills and the confidence that you gain being in a working environment. So actually, you know, you hear of lots of stories of people going to university and then struggling to get a job when they've obviously gained their qualification at whatever level they gain it at, because actually that their confidence, that, you know, they've always been used to sort of in a learning setting, and actually they may not have the confidence to the interview process and those kind of things, you know. Being around people, like I say, in the environment whilst you're working and learning is a massive skill that, you know, isn't really considered and kind of not thought about enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ria. That's really useful. And kind of linked to that, we've had a question. So I think young people are quite aware that apprentices can be paid sort of lower than other employees. Have any of you experienced that, and did that impact on you at all?
I actually was paid apprenticeship minimum wage in my first year of my apprenticeship, but as soon as the year had finished, it goes, so it depends on the company, I do believe. My company are really good in that, you know, once you'd done that initial apprenticeship, your wage would just go to a normal employee's wage. So although I'm doing a degree, it's the same as anyone else, I believe. So I wouldn't worry about that too much, really. But it does depend on the company, like I say.
I think another thing to consider with, if you are on the apprenticeship wage or a particularly lower wage to other people, is that you have to balance it out really, and think that you're actually being provided with, in most circumstances, some education that would have to be paid for separately if you weren't on the scheme. So like the way I look at it, the salary that I earn, I'm earning an extra £9,000 to £15,000 a year on top of that through the education that I'm getting for free. And then the other side to that really is when you think about the sort of, as Ria alluded to, the life skills and the experience that you pick up across your scheme. If you are earning a particularly low wage at the start of your scheme, the likelihood is that when you put yourself against someone at the end of the scheme who hasn't taken the scheme and has gone through the standard route, your salary prospects will probably be greater than theirs through that experience that's been gained already. So yeah, I again just emphasize that I wouldn't be concerned about that, to be honest.
Yeah, brilliant. So it's really about investing, isn't it, in your future, and hope that that investment will pay off in terms of your prospects in the longer term. Yeah, fantastic. Great. And so final question then, I think quite a lot of this has been discussed in terms of how each of you got into your apprenticeship, or how you decided which one you wanted to do. But obviously there are lots and lots of different apprenticeships in different sectors with different employers at different levels. How would you suggest a young person goes about deciding which one is right for them? How would they choose which apprenticeship is the right program for them? That's a really big question, I know.
I would probably suggest, and I kick myself for not doing this earlier, but you know, things like careers fairs and careers services, just like this, are so helpful, because you know, you kind of just, sometimes when you're young you expect things to come to you, don't you? But sometimes you do have to get yourself out there and do a lot of research and attend things like this to actually broaden your knowledge on what's out there. You know, with the business administration apprenticeship, which is what me and Ria did, and I believe you as well, Bethany, business administration, that then can lead off to so many different things. So, you know, I did a business administration apprenticeship in HR. You know, there were so many different things out there, but it's just a case of finding them. You can look on the government website as well. There's a long list of different apprenticeships that are on there, and it's just a case of finding one and researching one that you think suits not only what you enjoy doing, but where your skill sets, you know, lie as well, and what you can see yourself doing sort of every day. But that's what I would advise anyway.
Yeah, just to add to Chloe, you can tailor it to you. So when you pick your units, when you sort of, you know, initially go into it, you pick different areas, obviously, that you're going to do either, you know, written work or proof of like evidence of your work within that sort of area. You know, even though mine and Chloe's was the same in sort of initially, actually the units that we chose and kind of what we did were very different. But you can work, as people have said before, you know, you get a lot of support from the person you work with, you know, who the provider of your apprenticeship, and you discuss, you know, quite in detail really about the different units and what's going to suit you. And actually also, you know, I think through initially the first sort of stages, even if you've started, you can actually change. It depends on how far in I think you are to the apprentice, but you can actually, you know, swap a couple of units initially if you actually make a start and think, oh no, actually maybe I'd like to choose this instead. So yeah, you constantly work to make sure that you're, you know, it suits you. And like I say, you know, I chose a couple of my units, I chose kind of event organisation, because I found actually when I started work on the Christmas party, that actually I really enjoyed that. So it's very much kind of what you like, and, you know, tailoring it to suit you. So don't be sort of intimidated by just the initial name of the apprenticeship, because they can be broad, but you do tailor it to yourself.
Brilliant, thanks, Ria. Beth, did you want to say something there?
Yeah, so I think ours are slightly different, our apprenticeships, in that we don't choose units. I'm not sure about Matty, but I don't choose any of my units. The degree is sort of formatted for myself, so it's very broad anyway. It's a general sort of management, so I do some strategy, some contemporary business issues, finance, a little bit of everything really, and then you get to sort of understand what you like really from those units. That's what I've found. But I'd say if you're starting off and you don't know what to do, I'd say firstly just try and get any work experience you can anywhere. Ask for a day, a week. They're doing online ones. A lot of employers at the moment, they'll offer you sort of an online shadowing. I know my business will do it if you email in, and it will just give you a bit of an understanding, insight within a business, and then that way you can maybe stem from there and see what exactly you're interested in. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thanks, Beth. I was going to bring you in on that, because I noticed in your presentation you said that you'd emailed out to lots of businesses and got some different work experience, and it was because you enjoyed it at Mattioli Woods that you then decided to apply for an apprenticeship. So that's some really good advice. Thank you.
I was just going to say, I completely agree with you, Beth, on the sort of broadness of the schemes, and it's interesting because you guys have done a business scheme which is quite broad anyway, in the sense that you're supposed to get an overview of how a business operates. But even for courses like mine that are a lot more specific to a certain subject like food science, my course, I've been so well rounded in terms of I've had like modules in stuff like operations management and marketing and product development and stuff that's not actually that related to what the title of the degree is. But so there's that side of it. And then as well, I was just going to say that in terms of searching for something that you like, research goes a long way, I think. So if you guys are doing something in school at the moment that you take a particular interest to, even if it's not a ridiculously strong interest, it's still good to know what sort of careers that can lead on to, and you'll be absolutely amazed by what's out there in terms of when I was in school, I remember taking some subjects and thinking I have no idea where this would take me if I was to pursue it. But now looking back at it, there are some fantastic resources out there to sort of match your personal interests and education-based interests against potential careers, but then as well match your skill sets. There's a few matching tools out there online. I couldn't name them off the top of my head, unfortunately, that you can sort of put in your what you think that you're particularly good at, and it will sort of make recommendations of jobs that you can go into. So definitely utilize the internet for sort of deciding what you'd want to do.
Fantastic, thanks, Matty. Some really good advice there on thinking about what you enjoy, what you might want to see yourself doing in the future, but also that apprenticeships give you a really good, solid skills base that you can then move into other things from as well. So not to be too concerned about the specific subjects that you might be studying, that they give you lots of transferable skills, as Bethany, you mentioned in your presentation as well. So that's fantastic. And I noticed that quite a few of you talked about doing a job or a few jobs and not really thinking that this is something you could do in the long term and then switching. So, I mean, all relatively early still in your careers, but already had that experience. So I think, again, just emphasizing to students that you don't have to pick one job and that's going to last you for 40 years. You will move, you will change, and apprenticeship gives you a good basis for doing that. Great. Is there anything that any of our speakers want to add to what we've talked about today?
I just wanted to add, there's a government website for apprenticeships at the moment, and they've just reviewed it and they're just updating it. And you can go on there, it's very interactive, and it will let you sort of go on what skills you like, and it'll suggest apprenticeships for you. I've looked at it recently for my sister actually, so yeah, hopefully that's quite useful to people.
Great, and we can send that link around with the recording of the webinar as well. So fantastic, thanks Beth. Well, thank you so much to all of our speakers today. It's been really informative. Hopefully students will find this really, really useful, get a real first-hand idea of what an apprenticeship looks like, but also some really, really valuable advice. So thank you so much for your time today. Thanks to students for joining us this morning. We have recorded the session, so we'll be sending this around to our partner schools so that students can watch it afterwards as well. But otherwise, thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.